I'll say ladies and gentlemen, to the Town of Morristown Board of Liquor and Tobacco Control meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 5:30, Monday, April 21st, 2025. Do we have any changes or additions?
This is alcohol.
No.
Okay, none. We have minutes from April 7th, 2025.
I will move the minutes of April 7th, 2025 of the Board of Liquor and Tobacco Control.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? I have a motion by Chris and a second by Richard. Do I have any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That would be 4-0. Still not certain about Laura. Okay, liquor license applications. We have two, Mountain View Campground Corp. and 1013 LLC. By the way, Jason Luno has been contacted, and he has no issues with any of these applications tonight.
So I will move the liquor license renewals for Mountain View Campground Corp. for second class and 1013 LLC doing business as Moog's Place for first class, third class, and outside consumption.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion by Chris and a second by Richard. Discussion. Okay, so all those in favor of approving the liquor license for Mountain View Campground and 1013 LLC, please say aye.
Aye.
That would be 4-0. Tobacco license applications. We have two applications here.
So I would move the tobacco license renewals for Cumberland Farms of Vermont, looking for tobacco and tobacco substitute endorsement, and Higher Elevation LLC for tobacco and tobacco substitute endorsement.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion by Chris and a second by Richard. Discussion. So all those in favor of approving the application of Cumberland Farms of Vermont and Higher Elevation, please say aye.
Aye.
That would be 4-0 as well, and it's 5:32. Laura.
I would just continue with liquor and we'll put it on Selectboard.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just going
Unless, Laura, are you ready? Do you need time to settle in?
I'm okay.
You all set? Okay.
So
All right, I'll let her
5:32, Laura's here. Okay. We have one special event permit from North Hardwick Farm LLC.
So I would move the special event permit for North Hardwick Farm LLC. It's May 1st, 2025, from 3:45 to 6:15. The event name is 802 Spirit Store for tasting. The location is Morrisville Beverage.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second that.
So a motion by Chris and a second by Richard. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the special events permit for North Hardwick Farm LLC, please say aye.
Aye.
Is that a 5-0?
Yeah.
Okay, that would be 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion by Chris and a second by Richard. Discussion? It is 5:34. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
That would be unanimous. Thank you, folks. Let me know when you're ready.
1 second. We're only allowed to have one meeting live streaming at a time, so I must have completely finished with liquor before I came along.
I'm just laughing at Barry Russo's picture. That's a nice rooster, Barry.
That's hilarious.
if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you, and he's going to be 10 years old next month.
Oh, he's good looking. That was cute.
I'm gonna try one more time, hold on, Don,
Yep, no problem.
almost there. Yes, that's right.
Got it?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 5:35. I'm going to call Select Board meeting to order. It is Monday, April 21st, 2025. Do we have any agenda changes or additions?
Yes, we have an executive session at the end of today's agenda,
So after other business?
correct?
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. We have minutes from April 7th, 2025.
I would move the minutes of April 7th, 2025.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion by Chris and a second by Richard. Any discussion?
Question. My memory isn't that very good. Was Ron Wojcinski present or on Zoom?
Zoom.
Zoom, I thought, but I'm not sure. So Ron should have a asterisk showing that he participated on Zoom in the
Okay.
minutes.
Okay. Thank
Unless
you.
it's been fixed since then.
It has not been fixed since I did.
Okay. I do not remember him in the room.
I do not either, but
No, he was on Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
Any other discussion regarding the minutes of April 7th?
Yes, I have two suggestions. Under exploring grants for the Noise House, it said that a field representative will examine the buildings to determine if a grant is possible. At that time, we didn't know if they would do this or not, so I'd like to substitute that Chris will reach out to Preservation Trust of Vermont to see if the prior museum assessment needs to be updated to assist in applying for grants.
What number?
Number 4, under new business. So where is that going to go exactly again?
You're going to strike a field representative will examine the buildings to determine if a grant is possible,
Yep.
and substitute, and I've written it out, Judy, for you.
I already fixed it
Okay.
for my
All right.
conversation today.
Okay.
They're already fixing it.
Just read it one more time for me, please.
So Chris will reach out to Preservation Trust of Vermont to see if the prior museum assessment needs to be updated to assist in applying for grants.
Okay. And you had another one?
Yep. Under Charles Burnham's appointment,
Yep.
Number?
Number
let's
3?
see, number 3. Mary Ann Wilson had testified, and I think it would be fair to add what she said, and I just sort of paraphrase this, but that Mary Ann Wilson felt the MDF board was in favor of Charles Burnham's appointment and encouraged the select board to move forward with his appointment, if I recollected that correct. It seems that that's what she was conveying.
Okay. Anywhere in particular you want that?
Anywhere in the body of that conversation or description?
Okay. Judy, do you have that?
Yeah, I did. Chris and I went over this afternoon.
Okay.
So I got everything down in my office.
Okay, any other discussion regarding the minutes from April 7th? Okay, so we got 3 changes. We have that asterisk, and then we have a change under new business to number 3, an addition. And we have a strike on number 4 and an addition. So all those in favor of the minutes as amended, as presented and amended, please say aye.
Aye.
That would be unanimous. Okay, great. New business. So under new business, we've got re-envisioning the Oxbow Park Community Forum. I spoke about this last week at a meeting, and this is just an FYI tonight to remind everybody that on May 3rd, there will be a public forum hosted by the Lamoille County Conservation District. Just want to be clear, this is not, the town's not organizing this, the select board's not organizing this. Peter Danforth at the Lamoille County Conservation District is. And it's a wonderful opportunity to bring the town together, bring everybody who wants to provide input and listen to the input, an opportunity to do so. It's going to be at the Wing Center from 12 to 3, and after 3 o'clock, there is a plan to walk down to the Oxbow and give people a chance to think about what's been discussed. I just want to say, in my mind, this isn't our opportunity to discuss this. We will have a select board meeting on May 5th, and on May 5th, I would like there to be an agenda item where we continue that discussion, or we at least begin that discussion at the select board level on where we want to go. But I think giving the community a chance to weigh in first before we do, I think is frankly really important. I, for one, have been talking to a number of people in regards to the history of the Oxbow primarily. It's been a very interesting conversation with a number of people. Spoken to Marianne Wilson, spoken to Steve Leach, who's just a wealth of knowledge about the Oxbow and what was down there. It's amazing what that individual knows. I've spoken to Sonny DeMars several times. In fact, Sonny came by today and left me some pictures of what the Oxbow used to look like, and I have copies for them if anybody on the board would like to see them tonight, but I did bring them with me, or anybody in the audience that would like to see them as well. But there's 5 or 6 photos. I can just show you really quickly what we're looking at, this kind of thing. And they're just what it used to look like down there. And it was a completely different area. You would think not only were you in a different town, but you would think you were in a different state as well. It was kind of like railroad mecca down there. There was a tannery down there as well. So we'll have this all available on the 3rd. And I'm going to be getting some more information from Steve Leach, and hopefully we can put some kind of a PowerPoint together. But if anybody wants to see those tonight, I'll be happy to share them. So again, it's just an FYI. I would hope that the people that are in the audience tonight will get the word out, and we'll get as many people there. There's going to be a lunch at noon, and then that would be followed by the history. Sonny says you'll be there, which is good because he knows the history better than I do. And but there'll be a little bit of a history presentation. There'll be a group of panelists. I don't know how many people are on the panel right now, but there could be 10 people on the panel. I'm not sure, but there's quite a few people represented there, and there will be plenty of opportunity for public input. And that's really the point of this, is to get that public input and to and then get it all down in one place and then move forward.
Okay. There is a survey that they're asking that people can fill out. It's not listed here. I'm not sure where you can find it. It's been on the front page forum, but I would encourage everybody to fill that out beforehand, because they'll be reviewing that, and that'll help them, I think, leading the discussions. And I'm glad to see we're discussing it. And I will reiterate, I've said this before, I think the cart's before the horse. Been asking for 2 years to talk about this. I have huge concerns that we're going to be going in circles because of FEMA and state statutes. It's very clear there are certain areas we cannot do anything with. So I'm a little concerned that we're getting people excited when in fact we're very limited.
Certain areas or certain things that we can't do?
Areas and things, I'm not even.
Do you know what those are?
Well, yeah, the lower deck was considered a flood, and my understanding was that nothing can happen down there. The upper deck is very specific about you know, if anything goes in, there's certain criteria that has to be met, and
who's specified those criteria?
FEMA and state statutes. That's all,
Okay.
we've been
But
discussing
if you
it for
could
2
get,
years.
yeah, I mean, if you can get a copy of that for me, I'd love to see
Well, our
that.
Former zoning has it all,
Okay.
because he's the one who dealt with it. So
I know he and I talked about the lower deck quite a bit.
I'm hoping that
didn't
got
talk-
transferred over, because.
it didn't get-
Yeah, I don't want people to go in and start talking about putting soccer fields in the lower deck when it's been deemed that we cannot have soccer fields down in that lower deck.
Yeah.
You know, or it's gonna cost us millions of dollars, so.
I guess I would just say that we need some definitive, answers on what's been said and what's disallowed. And you're right, we have had conversations. I don't disagree, Laura. There's been lots and lots of conversations. And, I know that the lower deck is in the floodway and, but, we just, now's the time to get that information out there. So if there is specific information out there, well, then we need
I don't have
to
access
see
to
it.
the
I know.
emails, so they're there.
I know.
If I could make a
I know not everyone agreed, and certainly at the state level, not everyone agreed with Todd's evaluation of what was going on at the Oxbow.
Well,
And-
these were determinations that came, I read them, that came from FEMA and state, and from the state, they were determinations. It was not Todd's opinion. So, Brent, you might have knowledge of these, but anyway, I just have concerns. I don't want to see
Yep,
everybody get excited and then us be set up to say, no, we can't do that.
I
It's
would
been a lot
absolutely
of
agree.
time.
So I would just formally request if you could get me, you said you've seen these, if you can get copies of them and send them to me, that
I
would
don't
be
have
great.
access to Todd's emails. That's up to the town. And I don't, those should
Okay,
be
well-
public record.
Should be, yeah.
So I don't have access to his emails.
But you said Vermont statutes.
Well, whatever the state sent back to him, I'm not quite sure, I would have to read it, I don't have the copies, but
Okay.
there were determinations made by both FEMA and the state.
So I
in
would just say,
regard, so-
if you should be able to put your hands on them, I would love to see them. And I'm sure the rest of the board would too, so, but if you can do that, that would be great. That'd be great.
Yeah, those people.
I'm sorry. Anything, just before Tom chimes in, anything else from the board?
Well, it's sort of the cart before the horse here. I mean, we're having a negative conversation about allegedly can or cannot do stuff down there. The point of going through this exercise is to have a conversation on May 3rd and see what they present, and then we'll continue the conversation as a select board and ferry down through the information so that we have something to really concrete talk about. It's a fact-finding mission, and it just seems that, I don't know.
Or perhaps it's an opinion-finding session on May 3rd to find out what the community would want. You're welcome, come up
I'm sorry.
and just identify yourself, Tom, please.
I am Tom Stames. Well, if there's things out there from FEMA or the state, it seems like we should know about them before we meet on May 3rd. It would be very helpful. So who has those?
Yeah,
Todd
right.
Thomas, who was dealing with, because at the time he was the flood director for the county. So he came in, and when they tried to put things in there, he would pull those out, so.
I know, but I mean, somebody sent them to him. So who do we get that info from?
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
This has
it's
been
not
an
just
on-
one person that's not with us anymore.
this has been an ongoing discussion for a couple of years, and there hasn't been, in my mind, a definitive answer to this. As to
Judy
what's
Brent
allowed
should
and what's
have
not allowed.
access to Todd's previous emails.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure what you're looking for. I mean, it's easy for me to pull up state statute around what's allowed in a floodplain and what our zoning bylaws allow in a floodplain. For instance, the skating rink that was there this winter was allowed, according to our zoning bylaws and state statute. When I first got here, I heard a lot of people talking about this specific FEMA report that around the Oxbow, there's no such thing. I thought I had dispelled that already. So I can give you what the state has. I can give you that it's a floodplain, except for the parking area. But if there's something more specific, we can have a sidebar so I can understand what it is that you're referring to and try to ascertain that information.
Well, like this, the swing set that was supposed to go in, it
Yeah.
came back that an entire concrete platform was gonna have to be put in. So somebody made that decision. I don't know if that was FEMA or if that was.
No, that was local zoning requirement because it was in a floodplain. I've seen emails go back and forth from the state. But yeah, generally it's not, it is a floodplain, so putting any infrastructure in there, in my opinion, causes problems unless it can be fixed, or you don't mind losing it, but then there's debris flowing downstream. But I can try to get specific information. My issue is that, from the day I arrived here, I heard about a FEMA report that doesn't exist. So there's FEMA floodplain, there's our zoning bylaws, and there's state statutes around flooding.
And let's see what LCCD has to offer as well.
You good?
I guess just if there is something, point me or somebody in the direction where we can get it out there so we can talk about it on May 3rd and
Sure.
and in our preparation for that May 3rd meeting.
Yeah.
And if there's not, then we'll find out about it later.
Yeah.
But it can't just be in Todd's email. There's got to be the state sent something. If there's a state thing or a FEMA thing, somebody should have it. So
I've been
I
asking.
would request that for me to bring that. So if I can follow up with somebody, if it's you, Brent, that'd
Yes.
be great. I'll follow up with you in the next couple of days or sometime before that May 3rd, so that we can be informed and know. Let's not plan on building condos down there or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah. So.
I've been asking for it for a while, Tom, so. I've been asking for it for a while, and I keep being told that it's there, but I don't know what it is, so. But, okay.
All right, thanks.
I do see one hand on,
Zoom Nancy Donovan.
yeah. Nancy?
Yes, this is Nancy Donovan. And Todd Thomas told me directly that there was a FEMA report that we cannot put anything down in the lower part of Oxbow, that it was a FEMA thing. So there should be some kind of information there. Maybe somebody could actually reach out to Todd and ask him where that might be. Because I think we're putting the cart before the horse on envisioning what can be down there if there's explicit rules that we can't put something down there.
Okay, thank you, Nancy.
I would just like to add that unfortunately, I will be out of town that day. I would love to participate.
Okay, thank you, George. Any other conversation about this?
I'd like to say if I could.
Yeah, come on up.
In Dan McLaughlin, Morristown. In a previous life, I did a lot with the NRCS, which is who Peter Danforth represents in the federal government through the counties, which is how they address everything in the country. USDA, NRCS goes to all the little counties, and they're sort of like the regional planning commissions, but they're for flood resiliency, riparian buffers, land use, stuff like that, especially around farms and fields. And Peter has been working a number of years, including Kim before him. She put in the kayak landing that's down there. And where he's going with this is he's actually spending the money and taking the time to coordinate an effort around what all would people like to see And then also, what all can we do with what people want to see?
Right.
Mostly around the idea that, and again, their main function, and they've been all up and down the county, you see them all the time. Whenever there's a washout, they plant trees, grass, things like that. So he looked at the idea that the frontage, the water frontage, the riparian edge of the park, there was so much lineal footage. And it mostly included whatever you did to the lineal footage that belongs to the water and light anyway. They have the water rights up to about 12 feet above the top of the bank anyway. It all had to be coordinated, and nobody, it was always, the town doesn't want to do this, and water and light doesn't want to do that. And so he's been trying to figure out how to do it, and again, around some of the flood monies that's been available, and that's how he's paid for what he did already with the trees and stuff. He would rather have a more coordinated effort on what all does happen there. Even if the lower deck grows grass and trees for the next 100 years, he wants to be a part of that and say, sorry, this is all we can do, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So there's been so much confusion. And by the way, FEMA has less to do with the river than the Army Corps of Engineers does. And also Water and Light has an awful lot of say because they own all the frontage, both sides. They're the actual landowners. And I don't know the relationship, if we can call it town land or if we have to call it water and light land, but, I know that that's part of the situation. But he also sees opportunities more for doing special projects, again,
Thank you.
as opposed to anything else.
Thank you, Dan. And I'm just going to reiterate, this is an opportunity just for the community to come forward and talk about what they might like down there. The idea that any group of individuals might ever come together and do a little dreaming and thinking about what they might want to do with something and then finding out later that they might have constraints on it is not an unusual thing at all. So I would go back to where we began this. This is a chance for a community to come forward and talk about Oxbow Park. We all know what's happened down there the last couple of years. I have a picture of what it looked like in 1927, and you think it was wet 2 years ago. So it's a chance for us to talk, and that's what we've been talking about now for a long time, for a couple of years. It's an opportunity for us to come together, and I think we should take advantage of it and not worry too much about what can and can't be done at this point. We're going to find out later what can and can't be done, and long before we attempt to do anything. So this isn't costing us anything. It's costing us a couple of hours on a Saturday afternoon and bringing the community together, and that's nothing but a positive event as far as I'm concerned. So anyways, I'm going to move on if there's no other discussion then on that. Old business, consideration of the updated rules of procedure. At our last meeting, I believe it was our last regular select board meeting, we talked about community comments. And Laura, it was you that had brought forward this idea of moving community comments to the beginning of the meeting rather than the end of the meeting. And we had a conversation about that. And so what I did was I took those comments that we had agreed upon, and we also took comments from the public as well. And one of these, in particular, number 2, came straight from an individual that was in the audience. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read them. There is one change to the packet that we all had this weekend, and you should have a revised version of this in front of you. I think there's a yellow line. Yeah, there you go, Laura. So in terms of the rules and procedures, there's no changes anywhere except for what is now called the community comments procedure. And I'll just reiterate, this was because there was concerns about community comments being at the end of the select board meeting rather than at the beginning of the select board meeting, which is something we used to do. There was issues and concerns with that, so we moved, during my tenure on this board, we have moved it to the end. So now the proposal is to move it back to the beginning with these corollaries associated with it. So the community comments procedure reads, each regular select board meeting shall include a community comments agenda item. This item will occur at the beginning of the meeting immediately following agenda changes and additions. That was certainly head nodded, agreed by all of us at the last meeting. And this way, doing it, well, we have to do it after agenda changes and additions, but there's no altering the agenda after that point. So whoever is commenting will know what the agenda items are. Number 2, individuals wishing to speak during community comments must add their name and topic to community comments sign-up sheet provided prior to the start of the meeting. And this was actually suggested by a member of the audience. I would add to that sentence, for participants attending via Zoom, the chair will ask if they would like to have their name and topic added to the sign-up list. Their name is simply so I can call, or the chair can call upon that person so that they can speak. And the topic is just, the reason for the topic was to remind people that agenda items they are going to get a chance to speak on. So this is just a reminder that they're signing up for items or topics that are not on the agenda for that night. Number 3, comments during this period must be limited to topics not already included on the agenda for that meeting. Speakers wishing to address the items on the agenda should wait until those items are discussed, which has been common practice on this, for this select board since I've been on here. Number 4, speakers will address their comments solely to the chair. Community comments is not a forum for dialogue or debate. Comments are to be a one-way communication from the speaker to the chair, and that's as it has been. Number 5, each individual will have one opportunity to speak and will be allotted up to 2 minutes. The chair may extend this time at their discretion, and that's how it has been. Number 6, unless extended by the chair, the community comments period will continue for a maximum of 20 minutes or until 10 speakers have been heard, whichever comes first. And it has been a very, very rare circumstance, certainly for a long time, that we've had more than 10 speakers, but if there are, we will let them speak if they're on the list. And this is just to make sure that community comments doesn't go on and on. Number 7, the chair is responsible for maintaining order during the community comments period and may enforce these rules as necessary to ensure a respectful and efficient meeting. And that is kind of a restatement of what it says elsewhere. So those are the suggested that's the suggested wording for the community comments procedure from our last meeting. So I would entertain a motion if anybody feels so inclined.
Could I speak to some of this first, or do you want to wait until after the motion is made?
Which, it's up to you.
Well, looking back at prior meetings, particularly over this past year, it's pretty rare that we have 10, 15 minutes worth of community comments. So usually, particularly since we have town manager form of government, they're pretty brief. If it were up to me on this, I think it seems very cumbersome to ask participants to do a sign-up sheet, have them reach out to the chair at the meeting to get on a sign-up sheet to speak under community comments. So I would just strike number 2 completely. And just on number 6, I would just say that the community comments period would continue for a maximum of 15 minutes. And we'll leave it at that. You have discretion to let it go longer than that as the chair. But I think having it signed up and putting down the topic and then calling on those people and saying, we're going to do 20 minutes or a maximum of 10 people, we don't even come close to that in practicality. It seems very cumbersome and I don't want to say needless, but it doesn't make practical sense to me. I think we're making a bigger deal out of this than we really need to. It's an opportunity, we're just moving it to the front, so if somebody wants to come and say something and leave and don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting, that's fine. But let's keep it simple. and let the community speak to what they want to. We'll put 15 minutes on it, and then we'll move on.
Okay, I'm fine. So what I did was I just put this together because we agreed at the last meeting I would, so.
Oh, I know, and I
But we
appreciate
can.
that.
So the suggestion is to strike number 2 and then make number 6 15 minutes.
Yeah, I would, put a period after the maximum X amount of minutes, strike, or until 10 speakers have heard, whichever comes first, and strike number 2.
Kind of to that point, do we even need number 6 in there? Because I think I don't disagree with what you're saying, Chris, but that kind of could potentially limit us if there's some conversation that people wanted to have beyond 15 minutes. But, and kind of to your point where we haven't had that situation crop up in the recent past, it doesn't mean that it couldn't happen potentially, and to thwart or to limit conversation in the event that it happened because it's in a rules of procedure also seems a little bit cumbersome to me.
Other comments?
I would agree with both of what they're saying, and my initial reason for doing this was to clean up the process, to get us in line with open meeting laws and everything, and that it is an opportunity for the public to state comments. My concern was eliminating conversations because that are not on the agenda. And so I think both of those, I think the bigger key is that they are not conversations, they're comments, just that's a clarification. So I would agree
That
with
one-way
both.
comment.
One-way comment, and then that gives us the opportunity to decide whether we should make an agenda item out of it. So I would agree, I think it's a little, I appreciate your work. I think it's just a little
Didn't take
overkill.
long.
Yeah, I just think it's a little
Yep.
overdone. I don't think we quite need that much. You
Okay.
can always add it in later.
It's hard-boiled.
Don?
George?
Oh, I'm sorry.
George?
I personally like number 2, but obviously I'm hearing the majority wanting to strike it, so I think that adds some. There are many nights that, Chris, you're right, that we have 2 or 3 people, especially when we're saying this is only for non-agenda items.
Right.
So the conversation's gonna be, the statement has to be not in line with what's going on that night. I don't see that it is that much of a challenge to ask people to sign up before they walk in the room and they pick up an agenda, put their name on the list and say, I'd like to talk to the board about a playground or a road or whatever the heck it is. But I'm certainly not gonna vote. If the board as a whole wants to eliminate number 2, I'm not gonna vote against it because it's not there. It's just a different opinion that I have about 2. 6 with the period is fine after X number of minutes.
Well, it's not like we're going to screen the conversations either, so knowing ahead of time, I guess, doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
I don't see it as ahead of time. I'm seeing it as when the meeting starts, Judy,
Right.
someone goes to the table, brings the list to the chair or the vice chair, whoever's in charge of the meeting, and then they work from that list and go, number 1 is whomever, and you get up, and they have their 2 minutes. And it also, to me, if we have a hot button, and I can't think of one that we've had since I've sat on board that wasn't about the agenda, like I think back to the Jersey Heights. We had tons of people getting up, but they were getting up on an agenda item, not like this. So since we've not really structured this very well, it's kind of been the comments at the end, and I don't know if we're gonna get more because we put them at the start and people just wanna come in and say something to us and leave. They don't wanna sit for 2 hours to wait make a comment. I don't know how that's gonna play. So in my mind, leaving this in until we see how it plays, and it may very well come out to be exactly what you said. 3 or 4 people wanna say something and we don't really need all of this, we could just let Don run it.
Right.
But, so that's my view of keeping 2. Fixing 6 to have the period after 20 minutes and whether we're changing 20 minutes or not is fine with me. But I'm not gonna object to whatever the change is.
Right. And there is some discretion for the chair in terms of the time as well.
Brent?
I think the select board needs to clarify this a little bit too for the public, because I've had a couple of comments from the public And the assumption is this will replace the public's ability to speak about each agenda item, and that is not the case. This is additional time to comment about anything they want to discuss, one-sided, direct to the select board and the chair, in addition to the ability to comment on agenda items. And so I think from a couple people that came to me, I think there might be confusion about that. And so if the select board could clear that up,
So I can clarify that. I mean, it's in here in number 3, but I can clarify the fact that individuals will still be able to speak on each agenda item. Each of the warned agenda items, there will be public comment available. So this community comments section is only for those topics that are not part of the warned agenda. So, for example, tonight, we wouldn't have used community comments for the Oxbow. You know, we would have given people a chance to talk about that during the Oxbow agenda item. But thank you for that. And it does, it does say under number 3, speakers wishing to address items on the agenda should wait until those items are discussed. And they will continue to be allowed those opportunities to speak to agenda items, as has been practiced as long as I've been around. So I guess we have right now, we have certainly a few individuals that would like to strike number 2. Maybe all of us, I'm not sure. So the suggestion right now is to strike number 2 in its entirety and to end number 6 for a maximum of 15 minutes, period. So anything before we entertain a motion? Are people okay with that? Okay, so I would take a motion.
Is there a public that wants to speak?
There's no hands up. Yeah, you can come on up. Yeah, come on up.
No, Tommy, to the screen for some reason.
Tom Cloutier.
I was going to wait till a motion, but you go right ahead.
I can wait.
In comment. No, you go ahead.
All right. First of all, a little history. I've been coming to these select board meetings longer than any of you people have been on the select board. Longer than you, and certainly you would. And in fact, maybe not as long as Nichols, but as long as anybody in this room. And we've gone through this discussion about comments, public comments, many times, as you know. And all the time, it seems that you want to restrict the amount of time or what the public can say. And all this has been going back. To give you an example, one example how it works so well is the Planning Commission. I've been going to their meetings since they met at Copley. That's a long time. They don't have these rules. They don't have time. They don't have anything as far as public comment. You have a comment, you raise your hand, and they listen to you. In all the meetings I have gone to, that never once did I hear a harsh word from anybody from the public or from that board. They listened and respected it. I can't say the same for this select board. And the main reason is that you have problems with public comment on what they say, and you have to rebut it, and that causes the difficulty. And then we see again these procedures, in my view, they're trying to cut back. Now, the open meeting law allows you to do the time, the 10 minutes. And you might want to mark this date down, Chris, because this is the date you and I agree on something.
So Tom, I'm going to assume you have more.
Yeah.
So you have 2 opportunities to speak here. Do you want to just take your second 2 minutes now and just?
This will be quick now.
Okay, go ahead.
My history's over. I agree completely with what Chris said about was it number 2? To take that right out of there. It is. In the open meeting law, They talk about the time, the responsibility to give the, they never, ever mention anything about signing up to do it. And I think it's not there because they don't assume that you're gonna do that. And I will say that I think there's a problem by having somebody sign in to talk. So just eliminate that, it was fine. Now, everything else in there, according to the law, that's something that you can do, and you have the 2 minutes and everything else. And we, as the public commenting, will abide by those laws, as long as they're fair. The one other question is, I don't believe there's a 2-minute limit when the agenda items are brought up for the public to discuss that. That's it.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, and I'm just going to reiterate again, it wasn't the board's idea to put number 2 in there, but that's okay. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion then at this point.
Okay, so I will move the Select Board Rules of Procedure with the following amendment to the community comments procedure, that we would strike number 2 as proposed, and in number 6, we would end, number 6 would read, unless extended by the chair, the community comments period would continue for a maximum of 15 minutes, period.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Any, do I have a second?
I'll second. I still have a concern about number 5 and the limit of 15 minutes in the event that something happens.
Okay.
Where we have.
Yeah, go ahead. So I have a motion by Chris and a second by Richard. Go ahead, Richard.
Just in the event that we do have, if we did have more than 10 people, or even if it's 5 people and you give someone the benefit of having a longer conversation and it ends up being that you give Jim Smith 5 minutes and then the other people don't get the same allocated time. If we have a hard limit of 15 minutes and we know that that hasn't happened, but we've come really close, or I think we probably have surpassed that in the past, I think to put any time limit on that or the number of speakers on that is limiting. And
But the first 5 words in that say unless extended by the chair. Unless extended by the chair.
But it's kind of like, we'll do this unless this happens, that's what that says. I mean, I don't know that, why is it there if the chair has the flexibility to remove it?
The reason it was put in there, and the reason, and this came out of the conversation from 2 weeks ago, or whenever we had this conversation, was just to respond to the whole reason for moving community comments to the end of the select board meeting 2 years ago. And that was because a lot of time was being taken up at the beginning of the select board meeting and wasn't allowing the select board its opportunity, at least by that board, they felt, wasn't giving the select board its opportunity to do the town's business. So that was the reason for it. But that's not to say it's a
Well, I
good
can
reason.
appreciate that, right? I can appreciate that, but in the event that there's a topic where, I mean, to put a hard stop is, to me, it seems.
Do you want to leave it at 20 minutes?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I can go either way, honestly, really, but I just, you have flexibility to change the allocated amount of time as the chair, or whoever the chair happens to be.
And given that this is a change, this is something, a change, we're going back to the way it
And you
used to
can-
be.
Whatever, I guess whatever we
I
put in
think
there,
I'm
you have
gonna-
flexibility, I just don't know that it's necessary.
I think as
That's
the
kind of
chair,
where
I'm going to
we're
be giving the public that latitude to speak, so it's, we're not in the business of cutting the public out of their opportunities to speak.
And that's kind of where I'm at. is-
Okay.
In
So-
another year, we'll have this conversation.
We'll do it again.
I know.
Somebody will have a conversation.
Go ahead, Laura.
I see what Richard's saying, and I agree, and I think for scheduling, it helps us to have a general idea and to let everybody know that it's not gonna, that if they're coming to the meeting, but we might take out the word maximum and put in an anticipated, because I think Judy needs some kind of guidelines for scheduling, and everybody else needs to have some kind of, that I don't have to worry about it going on for an hour. So So maybe it's
And
just
that's what we had
wording.
talked about last week.
Yeah.
And when I left that, or 2 weeks ago, when I left that meeting, I haven't, it was 30 minutes that we were
Yeah.
talking about. And then we changed it to 10
Yes.
speakers in 20 minutes.
Yeah, and so I don't know if there's a way to, Yeah.
Like what Chris said, I guess I
I
guess.
think
I'm
it's
fine
the
with it.
maximum that there's a hard cutoff, I think is, I
That's
would
kind of-
agree, yeah.
But it also says unless extended by the chair, and,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, I agree.
and how many times have I looked at you folks when we've had
Yeah.
a decision to make and said, okay, so what are we gonna do here? You know, I'm not a unilateral power monger. Go ahead.
Does it ease the concern, Richard and Laura, if we just wordsmith this and pick up the unless extended by the chair and put it after the 15 minutes? So the 6 reads, the community comments period will continue for a period, and I hear the maximum, so either maximum or not, I'll use it because it's there. Maximum 15 minutes unless extended by the chair.
Yes,
Yeah, that actually sounds better, doesn't
it
it?
does sound better.
So
Does
community
that work?
comments period will continue for a maximum of how many minutes?
I think 15, I'm sorry, okay.
No, go ahead, George.
I think 15 is fine because we're leaving it to the chair's discretion to say, there were a lot of people still here who hadn't had a chance to talk. And I would like to give them that time, and Don, or whoever's chairing that meeting, says, as the chair, I'm gonna extend for another 10 minutes, or 5 minutes, or 20 minutes, depending on the situation that might be.
Okay.
I would agree, because it's okay if things run a little late, it's never good if things are early, because people can miss stuff. So I agree with you on the 15.
So you want the 15 in there?
Yeah, 15, and I don't have a problem with the word maximum, I don't know if Laura and Chris do, but I would just move that unless extended by the chair to the end of the sentence instead of the beginning of the sentence.
So before I ask you for agreeing to amendment, Chris, I'm just going to say, so it would read, community comments period would continue for a maximum of 15 minutes unless extended by the chair.
That's the way I'm suggesting it.
That's fine.
You good with that, Chris?
That's fine.
Richard, you were the second, you good with that?
Fine, yeah.
Judy, you got that? Okay. Other discussion? Oh, man, you've chewed up your time. You got 1 minute.
All right. Thank you. I'd like to comment on Brent's comment about the confusion on the agenda items as compared with the community comments. This is all different. Agenda items is different from this, and it may be the place in here to clarify that, so people do understand that. And that the time limit on agenda items is not pertinent to what the same they are as on community comments.
Correct, yeah. And
That people have to know that. They don't now, but they think that the agenda items, all they can do is talk for 2 minutes and then,
they get a second opportunity.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. And that
Which
would
you're
help
getting
out
right
as
now.
well.
You're getting a third opportunity, but yeah.
Okay, right, thank you.
Okay, so any other comments before I read? So the motion is to accept the updated rules of procedure with the change being that number 2 is entirely struck, and number 6 would read, community comments period will continue for a maximum of 15 minutes unless extended by the chair. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
That would be unanimous. Okay, thank you, folks. We have warrants to approve.
I would move the warrants.
I have a motion to approve the warrants. Do I have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion by Chris and a second by Richard. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
We have community comments. Seeing none, I'm going to move on. The schedule. On Wednesday, we do have a special select board meeting at 5:30 scheduled. On Monday, May 5th, we have our next regular select board meeting at 5:30, and then again on May 19th would be our second regular select board meeting for the month of May. So that's the upcoming schedule for the select board. Other business?
Tonight?
Yeah. Besides, yeah, okay, so just executive session. Okay. I would entertain a motion then for executive session.
I would make a finding that we go into executive session to discuss the confidential attorney-client communications received from the town attorney providing professional legal advice to the select board, and to discuss potential civil litigation. Premature disclosure of said advice or the potential civil litigation would put the town at a substantial disadvantage.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion by Chris, second by Richard. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It would be unanimous.
I would move to go into executive session to discuss the confidential attorney-client communication under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A1F of the Vermont statutes to include town manager Brent Raymond and executive assistant Judy Alberry.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
So a motion by Chris, second by Richard. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That would be unanimous. Thank you, folks.
It's that nasty.
Okay, folks, we're back on.
Okay, it's 7:09. I would entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
I will make the motion to come out of executive session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Chris, second by Richard. Any discussion? All those in favor of coming out of executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
That would be unanimous.
And I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you very much. 7:09, I have a motion to adjourn, and by Chris and a second by Richard. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And that would be unanimous as well. Thank you, folks. We are done.